This is the Kalkhoff Integrale S11, and I'm chuckling a little bit because to me it's like integral or something, but it's German and they're pronouncing it in sort of like European ways, so I'm trying to do justice to the name. There's a lot to appreciate on this bike, including the S, speed, the 11 gears in the back that are enclosed in this internally geared hub, really clean. If the bike tips over, they don't get banged up. Just keeps the dirt and water and things out of there, and you can shift from standstill. I've had a couple little hiccups with this, like I'm pedaling hard because this is torque and cadence sensing, but the gears don't shift immediately. If you've got pressure on them, you have to like kind of ease off a little bit, give it a second, and then they shift. But still, 11 gears is pretty awesome. We've got the Gates carbon drive, and this one has CDX, so there's a line down the middle. It keeps the chain, or rather belt in this case, aligned, a little bit of a bash guard. It's just clean, it's quiet, it's tight. You don't have to worry about that derailleur. But you'll also notice in the rear that they've got nuts on this, bolts instead of a quick release. You know, thankfully up front, not only do we have a quick release, but we also have a 15mm through axle. Gotta love that. 14 gauge stainless steel spokes, front and rear. Nice rims, actually. I'm looking at this PSH5 DT Swiss, and they've got what might be stainless steel nipples. They're just a little bit stronger, a little bit sturdier, because you need that for dealing with high speeds, especially because you've got a suspension fork here, and you just want to keep this bike on track. I believe this is a tapered head tube as well. So it's an air fork. It's got lockout adjust, which is nice. It's really clean. It blends in, kind of that matte black, almost like maybe like a charcoal finish on this. The fenders match, and they're extra wide, actually. You notice that? So they're a little bit burlier. They should protect even your lower kind of shins and stuff if you're riding in wet conditions. Love that they have the reflective sidewall stripes, so you'll be seen from the side. You can see it lighten up right now a little bit because of the sun. And then just the Schwalbe Big Bends. We've got Performance Line Race Guard, and I believe these are, 28 by 2 inches, so they're a little bit wider. I think this takes a lot of cues from some of the Stromer bikes and other things I've seen, or maybe Stromer took cues from them. You know, a lot of this stuff is being pioneered in Europe and, you know, slowly coming to the United States, and I totally welcome it. This is really high quality, 2-year comprehensive warranty, awesome 100 lux headlight, and a rear light here from B&M. It's top light line E, and it actually lights up when you pull the brakes. There's a standing light, so you can actually set a timer for how long you want the lights to stay on, even when you stop the bike and turn it off, for safety. So you're locking it up, maybe on the side of the street, no one's gonna hit you from behind, or maybe they'll see you just before they hit you. I love that they've got bottle cage bosses here on the seat tube. I love that it comes in 4 sizes. I love that it has an integrated battery pack. Really oversized adjustable angle stem, which I appreciate because you can make this more of an upright, relaxed feel or a really aggressive aerodynamic feel. Got these nice ergon grips, very low rise bar, hydraulic Magura MT5, disc brakes, 180mm up front, 160 in the rear, decent kickstand with adjustable height, and the rack time rack. Max load 15 kilograms, not the heaviest, but it is really streamlined, kind of compact. You can hook your panniers up to this or a trunk bag. Yeah, the other thing that kind of caught me off guard was, I think this is 31.6mm diameter seat post, but one of the challenges with it is that, it's only 250mm long, and a lot of times you get at least 300. So I'm sitting on this right now, and my legs aren't quite getting the full extension I want, and yet I think I'm at like the min insertion height for the seat post. So it's a little bit surprising, and sometimes I wonder, am I on the right size of bike? I think this one's the 50 centimeter. So I don't know, but let's pedal it. Just listen to how quiet it is. Now the other thing is you can see that chainring still spinning after I've stopped pedaling. It uses a combination of torque, wheel speed, and pedal cadence to activate and deactivate. It's not as fast as like Bosch. I feel like it's maybe a little quieter, but you still hear it. It's just more of a low pitch, kind of a brushing sort of a sound versus like a whining wee. So let's do it again. It's a little quieter over here. Okay, I wanted to give you an up-close look at the belt drive in action and just sort of the torque sensing and how it sounds, how it looks when we're actually riding. So I'm going to start in Eco, which is the lowest level, and I'm going to do some shifting. You can listen for that, and then we'll take it up to Ultra for high power. Shifting all the way down from 7 to 1. You can hear at those higher RPMs, the motor, you know, it's a little bit more of electronic sound than at the slower pedaling, but overall it works pretty well. Pretty smooth and quiet. So the way it's set up right now, some people might be like, well, hey, you know, you can adjust a lot of settings on this. It's much more open than some of the other electric bike systems I've seen. They even have climb assist, so if you're climbing a big mountain and you're putting a lot of torque in, but then you get to the top, you're cresting that hill, you don't necessarily want the power to drop out and then be like, oh, I need the support, and you have to shift down. You can adjust all of those things. You can even adjust the top speed. So yes, this is a speed pedelec, 28 mile per hour, but you can actually say, no, I just want to go 20. And you can kind of change the class from class 3 to class 2. You could take it even slower if you knew, you know, you were new at biking, or maybe you're in an area where you don't want to go too fast. Maybe you're in parts of Europe where the top speed is like 15.5 miles per hour, 25 kilometers per hour. Those are all really cool options, and I'm gonna like jump into the display next. So this is the control interface over here. Got a power button on top, a plus, minus, and set. And then they call this like the HCI, human computer interface. It's just a display. It's kind of thick and big, in my opinion. You know, you've got these big plugs here. They may be a little less vulnerable over time if you have to replace them or, I don't know, unplug them, move this thing. There is a standard USB on the back. This is micro. You could plug in your phone to use for GPS, and that's one of the cool, I guess, features of the new display. It's like Bluetooth ready, so you can download an Impulse app for your phone, and then you can sync it with this display, and it'll kind of give you turn-by-turn directions for GPS. I've experimented with a little bit. I'm not an expert with it, but basically it allowed me to set up my profile, adjust a couple settings, and then say, here's how I want to go, record my ride, and then I could potentially share that later with a friend and be like, oh, here's the route I took. It's clever. It's kind of neat. It's definitely focused. You know, some of the other apps I've seen out there try to do a lot and actually adjust your bike settings. Most of the bike settings are accessible through this awesome display. And again, awesome. It's kind of big. It's not removable. Physically, I'm kind of like not super impressed, but I do like what is shown and how they lay it out. So you can see here on the left, there's a battery infographic, and it actually shows, instead of using dots, it's like really precise with little pixels. Right now it says thinks we can go 16 miles with the rest of our battery pack, which is way less than half charge, maybe a third. And we're in Ultra, which is the highest level of assist. So if I arrow down over here to Eco, now it says 71 miles. So, I mean, again, they have these really incredible claims about how far you can go. Of course, it depends on the hills, the weather, your weight, so many things, but we're getting there. You know, people are definitely reporting like, oh, I went 80 miles, and you know, over the course of several days even, which is awesome. And again, I love you could charge the battery on or off the bike. Okay, so coming back, we've got like this backlighting graphic. The display always seems to be backlit. Maybe that's something you can turn off, but I think that's a lot of space they used for that light bulb icon. It says the time, your speed, miles per hour, easy to change it to kilometers per hour. And then down here, when you press set, there's a whole bunch of readouts. So trip time, trip distance, trip max speed, trip average speed, tour average speed, cadence, and then overall, which is maybe like an odometer. So yeah, lots of stuff, real easy to get to. You don't have to take your hand off the grip. This is actually backlit too, which is kind of nice. I like this. And you know, last year they had smaller displays on some of the bikes that were, I don't know, I don't think they were removable either, but they just seemed like a little tougher than this plastic. Coming back to all the cool stuff in the display, if you hold the set button for a few seconds, it actually brings up the menus. And we could just spend a long time going in here and looking at all this stuff. But settings is kind of the coolest. You can go up here and say, you know, device settings. Let's go to the display. And here we can say contrast, brightness, language, unit, date, time, parking light, like how long those lights stay on, navigation, and then back. Let's just go to back. I love that it goes around because you can arrow up and get to back very quickly. And then the drive unit, this is where you can talk about the shift sensor and climb assist, light reserve. I think that's like how much battery to reserve so that you still have enough to power the light. It's really cool. Rider profile. There's a lot of cool stuff. Just kind of almost feels endless compared to what some other companies offer, which is very little. So I've done some measurements on this particular bike, like standover height, and you know, I've weighed it and stuff like I talked about earlier. Got a lot of big trucks around here. It's a mixed experience for me, and I'm also not a huge fan of the seat collar right here. It's like one bolt. It's kind of tricky to get to versus having it on the side, more of a traditional clamp. This is like a V thing in there. It wedges the post. Just kind of interesting. I like that it has a front suspension, but given how fast this can go and how far, I would definitely put on like a thud buster or a body float just to soften up the ride, because this is sort of a hardtail. Yes, the belt is kind of quiet and clean and tight. You can see the wires down here. They go right through that down tube. So it's pretty clean. It's purpose-built, and hey, this is eco. And now I'm gonna do Ultra, which is the fastest. Okay. You can really feel it start to pick up. You know, that was interesting. So even though I only got to 22 miles per hour, because I didn't shift, basically the motor couldn't keep up. So I'm gonna press those trigger shifters and I'll try it again. Definitely having to push. But I got there, just about 28 miles per hour. This is what it looks like. You know, a good way to commute, get there quicker. The motor's definitely capable of climbing hills. Whoa. That's important. So I'm back at the office and just wanted to show you the charger. It's 3 amps here. It's got that energy bus magnetic interface, which I love. And you can use that on or off the bike. So I think there it is. You got that little cap, and be careful not to misplace that. But yeah, it just plugs right in, pretty easy. And if you kick it, you know, it's not gonna break anything, not gonna bend any of the pins, which is really nice. Before I was out there kind of messing with the key, and I was trying to figure out, you know, how does it lock in? They have a really neat battery interface here, so it actually kind of rotates in, which is nice because then you're not pulling it and potentially colliding with the frame, chipping the plastic pack. I also weighed this a second ago, and it's about 6.9 pounds, so you know, close to that 7 pounds, which is pretty good considering that you've got a 36 volt 16.75 amp hour battery. That's the kind of capacity that you can actually use for touring and trekking. So you can go faster, you can dial in the speed using that display interface, and you can go further, which is really, you know, I think it's kind of a popular thing to do in Europe, but whether it's commuting or you're actually going somewhere on an adventure, this bike gives you a lot in terms of comfort and just, you know, transportability with that rack. Let's go ahead and try to tip this in. I was doing this earlier. It's kind of a two-hand thing. I try to keep it a little bit tight. Whoop. Maybe I've got to flip it like that, kind of line up and then just kind of the last bit. There we go. That's it. That was awesome. You pull the key out. You don't have to leave it in. Yeah, it looks really nice. The lights come on. Not bad. There's a little bit of play right here, but again, this is a bike that's been at the expo and stuff. It's been ridden around, so there are a couple little little nicks and stuff, but it's holding up really well, and people at the expo have been saying, hey, this is one of the bikes we haven't had to do a lot with, even though people can sometimes ride them a little bit tough out there. It's been holding up really well. But these guys really test their bikes. They shake them, and they, you know, it's actually available in Europe usually a long time before the US, so they work out most of the kinks. I think that's about it for the full write-up on this one and some other Kalkhoff bikes. I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com, and of course, ride safe, especially at high speed.